Hey, welcome to another EVEREST-VW video that I hope you'll find useful. So we are starting to use connected boxes and SIM cards for data more and more in our media devices. And I just wanted to show you kind of where we're going when we've got a SIM card that needs reducing down to the new kind of nano form factor. This is relevant for anybody really who wants to adapt a SIM down to size. But so let's say an original SIM is received and it starts fairly large. It might have been trimmed down to a standard SIM size, and you can get various presses that you can crimp it down to size. But you do get extremely close to the edges of the contact on the pad. And just to give you an indication, I can just move in quite close with that one. Maybe it'll change its focus. Maybe it won't. Maybe if I just click the button. Yeah, you can get a feeling for it anyway. It is very close to the edges of this SIM card. So I'm just going to swing the camera down and show you kind of what we're doing after one of these is being clipped down to size for use. So looking on the board, I mean, the things to consider are it's got to be exactly the same size. You don't want to jam it in one of these press-in SIM trays. And you, of course, want it to fit into and effectively a manual SIM tray. Now, you can buy little packs of SIM adapters. They're only a couple of quid. eBay, Amazon, other places available. And you buy a little pack of these. You probably get a SIM ejector tool thrown in as well. And essentially, what you're looking to do is take a nano SIM and still be able to put it into any of these other devices. Now, this particular SIM card, I use it in my vehicle's smart device. It's a push-in, kind of sprung click-in type, but I've also used it in my SIM tray in a Samsung smartphone as well, in the Fold 5 that's recording this video, in fact. So once you've put it through one of those clips very, very carefully, which you can get on Amazon or eBay or somewhere like that for about 10 quid. They're all much of a muchness, I would say. All of our SIMs have been clipped down that way, but they do leave a bit of a chamfered edge on it. So you've just got to be a little bit careful. And I was just going to show you kind of what a SIM looks like once it's been through that process. And if I just extract this SIM out of here, we could just run some measurements on it. And I'll just show you the difference in thickness between the two, and what my advice is for just getting a good finish on it to make sure that it'll safely fit. So we've got the original SIM here. This has been clipped out of that using the clipping devices. Sorry, I haven't got any to do at the moment, but yeah, you could quite easily do the same thing, positioning it very, very carefully. It has a template and it's going to cut it very nicely. And before I had that, the clipping tool, I have actually previously snipped these out and nail filed the edges down to size, exactly templating off a real nano SIM, such as this 3SIM that I have here, which I was templating off. But ultimately, you just want it to fit in one of these adapters, and as soon as you know that, and it's not too thick, you know you're going to be fairly safe pressing it into one of your kind of sprung receivers. But they are a bit thicker. You know, they've come from a slightly thicker SIM card to start with, so it's worth considering. And I've got here a calibrated vernier and micrometer for measuring the thickness, if I can remember the names of these things from my engineering degree time. If we reduce that in size, we're going to be taking it from a stock over thickness of, let's say, 0.757, as we can see on there. I'd say 0.75 that was supposed to be. I'm sorry if the image is reversed. It's the way the camera operates, but that is 0.75. So if I release from that, and then that is as pressed out of a large credit card style. If I look at original nano SIM 3, so we had 0.75 pretty much on that one. This one is 0. Yeah, bang on, 0.67, if you can read backwards. So 0.67. So we've got a little bit to take off that. Now, how are we going to do it? So first of all, what I would say is find an old nail file or something and steal one from someone's drawer around the house or your own. And then you just want to make sure that you've deburred any of the little edges that you might have on the card after you've clipped it, just to make sure that that's not increasing the thickness or depth of it. And then if you're going to reduce that SIM card down in size, the advice I would give, and this is where I found success. I thought, how can I grip this and evenly sand it or whatever else? I would recommend just getting yourself a little ball of blue tack, sticking it onto the contact side, just to protect it. Remember, you don't want to do any damage to this. You don't want to touch it. When you're trimming it, you don't want to get on it. When you're taking your corner off, you don't want to get on it. And when you're thinning it, you don't want to get to it. If you do, and you expose that chip and you damage that chip, I cannot be held responsible. Your SIM may be trashed, and if it's a valuable SIM card to you, then yeah, you've got to be very, very careful. But with a bit of blue tack stuck onto the side that you want to protect, and gently rubbing it back and forth on a nail file and just making sure that you're applying nice even pressure all the way around it and regularly checking the thickness of it against another. This is one that I have reduced. I actually did this by eye, but I took it a little bit too far. This one is 0.64 according to this. So I didn't need to go as far as that. But just to give you an indication, you can thin one of these things thinner than a nano without damaging it, and this is in constant use. It's absolutely fine. You do start to see, because the plastic does get quite thin, you will start to see, and bear in mind this is too thin, so you might not start to see it at the correct thickness, but you will start to see a sort of silhouette of the internal chip and the contacts on the other side. So just be very careful. If you start seeing little lines appear, you're very, very close. And if I did go too far and I thought I'd seen that, I think I would probably go back to the drawer where I nicked the nail file from, and I'd probably get a little bit of nail varnish and just maybe put a little coat on the outside just to make sure that it was protected and insulated. But hey, that's how you do it. So yeah, trim it down with a clip tool. You can do it manually. I have had success this way. I've got one in another device that I did trim down that way, and it was absolutely fine. I did it extremely carefully, and I must admit I was quite impressed with myself because I just went very, very close. This is how close you've got to get to the edges of one of these larger SIMs. Okay, so you've got, I would say, about half a millimeter around the three sides of it. And then on the chamfer side, you're going to be chamfering it around 45 degrees, but you're going to be getting very, very close to the contacts, but you're not quite on them. So be very careful not to do that. But essentially, yeah, with one of these, you could reduce any SIM down to a nano, and with a bit of blue tack, you could thin it out very, 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 very carefully. But like I say, stop when you should stop. And just to show you, these are the adapters, the slight adhesive adapters. It quite nicely slides into that and just clicks in place. And with a tiny bit of edge finishing, give it a good press. With a tiny bit of edge finishing, that really isn't standing very proud at all. It is supposed to stand a tiny bit proud out of one of these cases because it's going to make its contact. But if I, yeah, you can see that is a nice fit in there, and you don't want to thin it down too much, and you don't want to take too much off the edges when you're cleaning it up. You just want to deburr the edges. That's just to take off any of those rough edges. If you don't do this and you do leave it full thickness, there is a chance that you're going to pop it into some of the sprung SIM receiver devices, and it will jam and it will get stuck in there. And I have been that person. So if that does happen to you, you're going to want to get a couple of sort of long pins. Again, you're going to go in the sewing box and get some needles or pins and get some long nose pliers and just bend the last millimetre of those pins. And then you're going to have to go down the sides of that and ease it out. It does work. You can do it, but you just got to be really, really careful. And also, if it is jammed into a clip device, just make sure that it's going to come out of that clip tray as well. So you really want to kind of over push it in again and then sort of ease it out. You'll find that it doesn't, if it does jam, it doesn't jam all the way to the bottom. It jams kind of a bit further up. So it will try and come out when you click it. Okay, that's all. Probably a long-winded way of telling you how to thin and clean up a SIM card, but yeah, hopefully it's useful information. Be very, very careful. That chip from the front, from the back, from the sides, you don't want to go into it at all, but you can reduce any SIM card down to a nano, provided those contacts sit within the size of an original nano SIM. So best way to check, put that nano SIM over the top of it. Is there any difference? Is it coming over the edges or not? And yeah, you should be able to do it. But comparing those two, the real versus the reduced in size, I think we can see there it's quite a good result. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye bye.